On this episode of Star Trek Universe, episode 201 of Strange New Worlds, The Broken Circle, right after these words from our mystery sponsors. You know what? The broken circle. The whole episode I'm sitting there going, well, the circle won't be broken by and by, Lord, by and by.
That did not enter my head, not at all. Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where two lifelong friends sit and chat about Star Trek. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I am David C. Robertson.
Dave, what's happening, bud?
I don't know, man. Back pain for both of us. Horrible, horrible lives.
It's been a rough week. For both of our backs. So It's no good. But we got a new Star Trek.
We did.
It's always a delight.
Sometimes.
It's always a delight to have it. Now, whether we are appreciative of the particulars,
right?
It's always nice to have it to be excited about and to watch. So, what did you think? I guess spoiler alert. We're getting into season 2, episode 1 of Strange New Worlds. What did you think?
Man, I was real bored. I just didn't feel like it was a very good episode, and there were a couple of things that I liked. Like, I thought it was neat that Mbinga was or Mabinga, however you say it, he's the one that was like, to calm your emotions, here's this hand harp that you use all the time in old stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. That gives him playing his little hand harp a little bit of context. Yeah,
of course. I was also sitting there going like, the hell, dude? You just keep a hand harp behind you? You just have a Vulcan lute hanging out behind the corner there? Like, what's happening, man? Was it maybe he made it to with the anticipation that he was going to talk to Spock? Next time I talk to Spock, I'm going to give him this.
You might have had it, replicated up or whatever.
Yeah, of course. Mbinga's got a lot of shit just behind his. Just behind the Super Serum. What the hell was that?
Yeah, that's got to be from a previous episode. Would you remember what it's from?
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure it's from a previous episode. I don't remember it. I have no recollection. But the way they talked about it, they're like, "Oh, you still have some of that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I keep it on me or something." It sounded like it was something we should have remembered, but I don't. I don't remember them using that stuff.
I don't think so. I think that was meant to be he has leftover super serum from when they fought in the war.
Oh.
Because we know Chapel and Mbinga fought in the war, the Klingon War. We find that out this episode. So
right.
Okay. So they have superhero serum.
Mm-hmm.
They turn into Captain America or something and run around and just take down all the Klingons ever.
Yeah, which feels weird from a canon perspective, and feels weird from a Starfleet perspective, a thing they wouldn't really keep around.
Yeah.
This whole episode feels like it's well constructed, and it's a fine piece of storytelling or whatever, but there's no depth to it, and it doesn't feel very there's just some things that really bother me. The whole point of this was there's a group of Klingon. First of all, it's Star Trek 6 meets Star Trek 2. It's Star Trek 2 because they have to steal the Enterprise, which that
was Star Trek 3.
Oh, was it 3?
Mm-hmm. Search for
Spock. You're right. So Star Trek 3, they have to steal the Enterprise. It just felt like it almost. You can't steal the Enterprise every episode. It feels like a really big deal to steal the Enterprise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was one thing when you kind of go a little bit against orders, but stealing the Enterprise and going on a big mission into war-threatening territory feels like a big deal that would have huge consequences. And it just kind of feels like that's not what they're trying to do here. This is a show that's supposed to be about episodic storytelling, Mm-hmm. And then we find out that there's a group of Klingons and humans working together because they want to profit. So there's this, is that the Broken Circle? Is that their name?
Yeah.
So they go in to fight them, and that could be really interesting. Like a group of, Klingons who are fighting for dishonor, basically, because they just want profit. Like, they've, left their way of honor, and a bunch of Starfleet who've, left their way. Like, the war has, ravaged them or something. And then they get there. I was like, ooh, this could be really cool. Like, almost like a Maquis type situation, This group that's like, screw Starfleet, screw the Klingons. We're forming our own little alliance to, keep them at war because we only want it for ourselves. Like, that seems like it could be really interesting. And when they get there, you don't see a human at all.
Yeah.
In their entire base. It's just a bunch of Klingons, and it just kind of feels like it's playing on the tropes that we left behind in the original series of the Klingons just being sort of these bad guys.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I just was like, I wanted this when they mentioned it, I'm wanting this complex story about some faction forming, and no, we just get Nope. And then even that idea of the Klingons and the humans, that's what I was talking about Star Trek 6, the Klingons and the humans forming an alliance to keep them at war. It just felt like it was just being comped from all over Star Trek and nothing being fully explored in the moment in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But the episode plays out well. I like the characters. I like what they're doing. I like their character moments. I like the Spock getting emotional over Chapel. All of that. I like him having to make the decision to shoot the ship, even though he knows that this person who's somehow this core of his emotional being, he has to shoot. He doesn't even fully understand how he feels about her and stuff. That was all good, but it just felt like it was at the same time too big and too little. Like the story was too big, and that they stole the Enterprise and went across to a war torn area, and then it's too little in the fact that this should be a big pivotal thing if there's a new faction forming of Klingons and humans working together, and they just leave that alone completely. It's really strange.
Yeah, it made me feel weird because I think I agree that it should be a bigger deal to steal the Enterprise. On the other hand, they did have help, and I mean, how many episodes of Star Trek do they go against orders to go do a thing?
Right, I agree. Go against orders. They could have written it differently, but going against orders happens all the time. But a lot of times it's sort of soft going against orders, oh, we didn't hear you, Commander, or whatever. But stealing the Enterprise is something that's only really happened once or twice, maybe.
Yeah.
In the whole thing, and it was that big moment where you have the crew of the original Enterprise in Star Trek 3 working behind the scenes, running around, stealing the Enterprise. It's a big deal. It's this big cinematic moment, and in this it was not even the captain isn't even there. It's Spock's first chance at command, and he's I'm gonna steal the Enterprise. It's only logical. What? I don't know that it is.
Yeah, I was just there going, I don't even know what I'm watching anymore.
Yeah, it felt like Spock should not be the biggest loose cannon on the ship. That's not Spock's role normally.
I don't think he is. Not with Carol Kane running around. What was that accent? That was terrible.
Oh, I liked her, man. She was maybe my favorite part. Yeah, I liked her a lot.
Yeah.
It's silly accent, but it's fun, and I forget what they say. She's from that race that lives a long, long time. That's been hanging out on Earth. Do we know anything about Lanthanites prior to this?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. But both me and my wife were sitting there going, what is this accent? Why does it sound like she is on SNL trying to read cue cards with all this techno babble? This is horrible. Who hired her? I stand by that.
All right.
I do not like her so far. I'm not a huge Carol Kane fan anyway, but this role is not for her. To me.
That's cool. I didn't have a problem with her.
Sorry.
But that accent just doesn't bother me. It reminds me of other roles she's played where she has that similar accent. And some of them very serious. I just watched her on Hunters, and really good show. And she plays a similarly broad accented character, but she's played for laughs at times, but the show's really serious, and I love her on that. So this was cool.
Yeah, she's often played an accented broad, but
yes, indeed.
Remember her as a penguin and Penguin's mom, on Gotham?
Yes, yes, I do.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. But she's in a Starfleet uniform for some reason, talking about warp cores and
yeah,
it's just weird, man. I don't know.
I respect that. It didn't hit me as weird, but I mostly liked her. I feel like about her like I do the rest of the crew. I like everybody. I like what they're doing.
Yeah.
This episode, for me, it was all just the structure of like this episode being so weird. It just feels like almost like a season arc, but because this is the show where they don't do that, they shoved it all in an episode.
I mean, they're clearly doing some kind of season arc. I mean, they're dragging Una's shit on, and they're dragging on this Gorn War bullshit. So,
oh yeah, they are. And I think that's going to be the next big thing. It's the Gorn War, apparently, which was the big reveal. He mentions at the beginning, the top brass, something's going on. I don't know what it is. And then you find out the Gorn War.
Yeah. That Gorn War there.
Yeah.
I'm not against it. I'm just like,
I'm not against it either.
Whatever.
So, I guess for me, Strange New Worlds is this home for, episodes that explore what Star Trek used to explore, which is I don't know, looking into humanity and figuring out interesting ethical dilemmas, and it's that episodic series, supposedly, at least more so than what we've been getting lately. And it just these kinds of episodes are not bad. I like these kinds of episodes, but they feel like you have to do them kind of sparingly, and you have to kind of undergird the season with really great I guess morality tales and stuff, in my opinion. And coming out of the gate with this one felt just a little weird. It didn't have a build up to it. I would rather had some weird episode about a weird dilemma that they have to face,
Yeah,
that's what I like.
It was just that there was I felt like whoever directed, and I didn't even pay attention. There were a lot of strange choices, when Mingo was like, "Oh well, let's see if they have the spacesuits or whatever," and he opens the door, and it looked like there were spacesuits there, and then it was like dun 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 dun. And he looks at Chapel, and it goes to commercial. I was like, was that not a spacesuit?
Yeah, my niece was like, what was that? And I was like, I don't know. I'm assuming it means the spacesuits aren't functional or aren't there, but just from musical cues, I don't know. Another really weird directional choice. They have a moment where they open up a panel in the floor, then they go down to another level, and the camera work decided it needed to invert and then go down a level and then invert again. The camera turned 180 degrees, traveled downward, and I get that, in space there is no up, but on the ship there's gravity. And when you do that, it tells the audience something. It tells the audience that, you're getting an inverted gravity or you're entering a different spatial area, but they weren't. So it just, was a weird choice. It was like they were, whoever directed was, doing some things that, trying too hard or something. Doing some things that did not seem to work at all.
I mean, the scene where, Mbenga and Christine were in space and they were freezing to death, and they got teleported. They did some crazy shaky cam close up transporter stuff, and it looked like, I don't know, a 90s music video or something. I felt like,
I agree.
It was super weird choice. I was like, what was the point of that? It's just the weird directorial choices in this episode are pissing me off by the end of it, because I'm like, what are they doing? That wasn't even clever.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. There were some really weird directional choices. I don't know what else to say about it other than that. We got I did like it. Like I said, I liked everything from Mbenga and Chapel, and I liked the Spock stuff. I really hated that I think part of what I didn't like about this episode is it's just missing Pike,
Yeah, I missed Pike. I feel like, Pike would have put aside his emotions and made sure Mbenga was okay too after they beamed them up.
Yeah.
His Spock made sure Chapel was okay, and then just stood there while she was breathing, And then Binga's like laying there still dead.
I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing, but then I looked at it and like Binga was still breathing when they came in. Chapel wasn't.
Oh.
So I think that was the idea that like Binga was alive. So it's like a triage thing, Spock.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think like it might have been more interesting if he hadn't been alive, and then they have to like he has to deal with that, the repercussions that he just chose to save who he felt like saving instead of like assessing the situation properly. But like they just let him off the hook with letting Binga still be like kind of moving and blinking while Chapel was dying or dead.
Yeah.
Needed to be brought back.
I mean, just give me a, hey, you good, bro? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Show some concern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the camera, and it took a while for the camera to even like go to him to like find out that was the case, you know. So yeah, I'm with you. So yeah, not super happy with this one, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was a weird one to start off with. Honestly.
Yeah, I feel like if this had been in the middle of the season, it would have like kind of fallen through the cracks of like, yeah, that was an interesting episode where they went and fought the Klingons for a minute. Oh, now we know there's a war coming, but instead it just kind of feels not great.
I feel like with that, like, Klingon captain at the end, like, I really wanted, he's like, we have to talk face to face. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm curious how he's going to convince him that this was all true. And then, like, they're just drinking and they're like, ah, ha, 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 ha. Like, that was really not satisfying for me.
Yeah.
That felt like the next big thing in the episode. Like, oh God, how is he going to convince this guy? We never see it. It's just, we're all drunk now. Blood wine.
Yeah. And for a second, it really bothered me because I thought the Klingons on the Bird of Prey were in on the plan.
Yeah.
But they weren't. I realized, like halfway through, I was like, why is he just like letting him off the hook? Why is he letting the Federation off the hook? Like, why is he still mad at them? And then I realized, just the one group of Klingons were in on it. It confused me because instead of having a mixed group of Klingons and humans, the only people they ever fight are Klingons. So it seemed like instead of it being like a mixed plot, it was a Klingon plot. So I was annoyed by that.
Yeah, and they're building a new Reliant in the Genesis caves, and they had to steal the Enterprise in Star Trek 3.
Yeah. Like, in some ways, I think, like, you know, you're trying something new, like the weird camera angle thing. Like, I think back to, like, Evil Dead, when Sam Raimi first used that camera angle that was, like, revolutionary. They were shot upside down until something passed him, and then it turns forward, and he's watching the car go forward. That's his shot. Like, it's known as an Evil Dead shot, you know? And, like, people use it all the time for things like that. And so, like, you know, I respect the attempt to try something new for these types of things, but, like, some of these, like it did what they're doing didn't hit, and it makes me sad for this episode because I did want a really strong premiere because I wanted to be excited for Strange New Worlds to be back because, you know, I really liked season 1 a lot.
Yeah,
it's just kind of a weird one out of the gate, I guess.
Yeah, it was a weird one, but we'll be all right.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna stop watching it.
No, me neither. Any other thoughts on this episode?
I don't, but we have feedback.
Okay, yeah, let's get some feedback.
We have 2 feedbacks.
Sweet.
We have an email from Andre Sparks. Says, "Hey guys, I'm so glad it's back. Great first episode." Oh, I'm sorry you had to listen to this episode, man.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't see it the way we do, but yeah.
He says, "Now in the old show, was Spock ever this out of control with his emotions?" Yeah, sure. Like, it seems to be called out a lot in this episode that he's different. Like, as an audience, we know he's different, but did the characters just not talk about it in the original show? Lastly, an attack on 2 fronts definitely caught me off guard. Can't wait to see what happens. Is this war new canon? Keep up the good work. Thanks, Andre. Yeah, I think by the time we get to the original series, Spock is very established in what he is. Not counting the pilots, because he's a little off. As we know, the cage happens before Strange New Worlds, and he's still a little off in the second pilot, but I think at a certain point, it's like everybody kind of respects him and knows that he doesn't like to talk about how emotional he is at times. So everyone kind of like, except for McCoy, steers clear of messing with him about it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really talk about it much.
Yeah, I also think that in the original series, because it was the show was introducing us to the Vulcans in general, like it treated his Vulcan side as the other. Like, so every time the humans on that show are talking about how different Spock is, they're talking about because he's a Vulcan, he's different. And now we have this world that's established where everyone knows Vulcans, and like now these characters, and it's sort of a meta problem because the characters as well as the audience knows that like he's not Vulcan, he's half Vulcan, half human, and that is really what makes him different. And they kind of they really played with that a lot in Discovery and even 2009 Star Trek, and like I feel like this show is using a lot of that here. And I know they used it in the original series too, obviously it's canon there, but like I feel like episode to episode, most of the crew, when they talk about how different he is talking about his, oh, you're so weird and green-blooded and logical, like they're not talking about how different from other Vulcans he is, except for the few like Vulcan episodes, In this, it seems like everyone knows a Vulcan, that they're comparing him to.
I think they're also trying to reconcile certain elements of canon where early on in the series, you'll see Spock smiling, you'll see him smirking, you'll see him like playing his little Vulcan lute while Uhura sings, and he's like smiling and watching her as he's doing it. Like, there are some strange choices that happened early on in the original series, just like in TNG when Data would smile and do weird shit like that when he wasn't supposed to.
Right.
So I think they're trying to reconcile that to some degree, personally. But I'm interested to see what they're doing with Spock. I'm trying not to get too uppity about it as a fan,
about Spock being different.
Just about him being so emotional and about him, having so many issues. I'm trying to see where they're going with it and what they're doing with it before I get like,
Yeah, I have a feeling it's heading towards some sort of conclusion where he really decides to bury himself and get rid of the emotions. Like, he's dabbling in the idea that he's hearing from Chapel that no, it doesn't make you less, it makes you more human. Like, it's not a bad thing, just be who you are. And I think he's going to dabble in that, and then it's going to lead to some pain, probably when Chapel and him don't work out or something, or when whatever happens, or he makes a terrible decision because of Chapel and it hurts crewmen or something. Something happens, and then maybe that pushes him down further, and he decides to follow the Kolinahr closer.
Yeah, for now, I'm looking at Strange New Worlds, and I'm going, I don't see how this isn't a new canon, because I'm not seeing the connective tissue between what Chapel and Spock are doing here and how they become in the original series. Like, as far as their relationship. How cold and emotionless Spock is towards Christine, although there always seemed to be like a small bit of, there was something there. I have a problem seeing how she becomes so demure around him, and how, she almost, in the original series, acts like she's just like a battered wife or something. Like, she's very like, I don't know, like, what was the word? She acts almost like self-subjugated or something. I say self because he never asked her for anything.
Yeah.
On the original series.
Well, I mean, I could absolutely see how this relationship could turn to that. When I don't see her turning into Nurse Chapel exactly, because like, it's just a different era of television. Like, completely. A lot of that is just like, the way women were in the 60s on television or whatever. But with this, I think that you can see in the relationship, like I said, if her and Spock have a real connection and she really wants to pursue it, but he decides something bad happens because of the relationship. I mean, we see it in this episode. He runs to her instead of running to Mbinga. And it's like, what if he does something similar and loses crewmen over it? And then he realizes his care for Chapel is like hurting his duty, and he decides to like really follow the Kolinahr, shut all that down. And then like he Yeah, I see you laughing at duty.
I was trying to do it quietly.
I'm just calling you out.
Of course, you said it hurt his duty. I hate myself for thinking that's funny, but it is.
So like you can totally see if Chapel still wants something out of the relationship, and he's decided to purge that, and even the idea that he like still is tempted by it, you know, like later on in those later episodes where he's like sort of still into her and wants to be, but he's like trying to shut it down within himself because of the problems that it's caused in the past. Like I could totally see that relationship being birthed from this one, but it would probably take something traumatic like that.
Right. Yeah. I'm not saying it because he couldn't do it or whatever. I'm just saying, like, as the characters are presented now, like, oh my God, like, what are they going to do to make that the reality?
Right.
You know, that's my point. Honestly, I'm shipping them so hard. I kind of hope this is a new canon.
Right. Me too. Maybe we'll get a time with them together or something. Even if it is trying to conform back to canon. But, you know, as we talked about a lot last season, the idea that if Kirk gets on the ship before Pike leaves and all that stuff, which he's already done, like that's going to be a new canon in general. So
no, not necessarily because they haven't met yet.
Oh, right. But I'm saying if that happens is what I was getting at. But yeah, last season, I guess they didn't meet.
Oh, Andre says, P.S. Hope you guys heal up soon. Peace.
Oh, thanks,
you, Andre.
Thank you.
We're old. We hurt.
Yep. old men with bad backs, apparently.
Yep. All right, let's get to Stu Little here. Strange New Worlds 2, Strange New Worldser. Is what he says. He says, hey, it's Strange New Worlds time. Wait, you have to divulge what species you are on your Starfleet application? What happened to prefer not to say, like the race part on our present day ones? I feel like that's the thing that you would need to know.
Yeah,
probably.
Depending.
But in the future, everyone's delighted with what they are, so they need not prefer not to say.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was just taking off on something Roddenberry once said. Stu says, did Uhura wear those luminous green earrings in Season 1? I found them rather distracting. Maybe this is leading to the origin of the regulation why Ro Laren couldn't wear her one earring in TNG. I didn't notice Uhura's earrings at all.
I didn't either.
Stu says, we aren't even 10 minutes into the season premiere of a Trek show and the Starfleet characters are deciding to go rogue. Where is the discipline? I don't know, man. I
really do feel that way. I feel the same way. I know that going rogue is fun. I've seen all the Mission Impossible movies, but like, this just it feels like that should be, there's a movie called Insurrection for a reason. Like, it's like, that's a big deal when you do that kind of stuff. And just having it be a one-off episode where Spock's in charge, that would like get him, they would like be questioning giving him a command for the rest of his career. You know what I mean? Like, which he doesn't get. So maybe, but like, yeah.
I mean, he does. He's captain of the Enterprise on Star Trek too.
Oh, is he? Cool.
Yep.
Didn't remember that.
He hands it over to Admiral Kirk.
Okay.
When things go bad.
Gotcha.
He's, Kirk is completely comfortable not doing it. He's like, no, it's your ship.
Neat. That's need to rewatch too.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do.
Alrighty, let's see. Stu says, Pelia is happy to help Spock steal the Enterprise because he's Amanda's son. Green-blooded Nepo baby. I think, can we just ignore Pelia from canon, please? For the love of God.
I like Pelia. I just like Carol Kane.
Yeah, I mean, she's fun in certain things in pieces, but she was a bit much here for me.
Yeah.
Stu says, they have venom in the Star Trek universe? The fire rises, brother. Time to go mobile should be Spock's thing, come to think of it. Yeah, I hated that whole speech. I don't know why they have to keep having speeches about, like, what's your captain's phrase? Like,
yeah.
I'm so bored of that. Like,
yeah,
it's not...
I know. We've talked about it last season, how we hated it in the trailer. It didn't bother me as much in context. It just didn't feel as big of a moment, I guess.
Yeah.
Didn't
Captain
bother me.
says whatever they say at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, me and Effie just watched The Cage, and you know what Pike says? Engage.
Nice.
He's like, activate time warp factor 12, or whatever it was. I think it was 7,
Time
actually.
warp factor 12. That's great.
Engage. Stu says, I have to say, though, the whole sequence hinges on the conceit that enhanced strength is enough of a leveler for a couple of doctors to be able to beat Klingon warriors in hand-to-hand combat, even when the Klingons have superior numbers. And before you bring up the bar brawl from The Trouble with Tribbles, call me racist if you want, but those weren't even real Klingons, and Scotty was on the human side.
Well, it also seemed to give them enhanced senses. Like, they seemed to be able to move more quickly and visualize what was happening more quickly, based purely on the venom, whatever they were taking.
Yeah, I would also say that M'Benga and Chapel had to go through a lot of shit in the Klingon War. They already know all the combat and stuff.
And they're trained Starfleet officers. Like, they have some combat training, I'm sure. But, yeah, it still feels like John Wick levels of, like, beating up that many Klingons. You know what I mean? Like, it was a lot of Klingons between them and their goal. And it took them, barely effort. What is it? What he always says on a pitch meeting? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Barely an inconvenience. That's what it is.
Oh, barely an inconvenience. Yeah, I think what they were going for is that they already had combat training. They were in the Klingon War. They took the thing that made them more fightier.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and Stu's right on Trouble with Tribbles or Day of the Dove. Those weren't real Klingons. I mean, they were, but they were like subdued because of all the genetic manipulation.
Yeah, we guess, yeah.
Well, Enterprise said it. So,
well, did they say they didn't have as good a fighting power?
They were weaker. They were like humans. That was
okay.
What happened in Enterprise, but they like showed like why there were smooth-headed Klingons.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. I just didn't remember talking about strength. All right, cool.
So yeah, but we know that those Klingons, I don't know if they got gene therapy or what, but Korkang and Koloth were like normal ass Klingons by DS9.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they were.
So, Stu continues, Lanthanites lived on Earth undetected till the 22nd century, perhaps mingling with other long-lived humanoid species, and we have another time travel episode upcoming. All I'm saying is they might really be getting their money's worth out of that 10 forward set. I actually hope it happens now just for your email, Stu.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a good idea. I did think that, if they're doing time travel or just like, it's always interesting to have that character who's lived a long time. It's like just little throwaway lines like Guinan could have, because she lived on Earth way back in the day or whatever. Mm-hmm. It'll be neat to have Carol Kane's character be on there doing that kind of stuff.
I guess. Stu says, yes, Bach, you better not go rogue again, or it'll be your commission. Like, for instance, if you stole the Enterprise to go to a forbidden planet, especially one where there's a penalty of death to travel to, that'll definitely end with you being kicked out of Starfleet for realsies. Yeah, man. Spock totally steals the Enterprise in the menagerie.
That's funny.
That's the one where he's trying to save Captain Pike.
Yeah.
Get him back to Talos 4.
I know.
I wasn't sure.
I knew the other parts. I didn't remember that he stole the Enterprise in that one. I just remembered that Pike had gone there as a younger man. I thought he was referencing like Pike being a hypocrite. Like, don't do that thing I did.
No. That was like Spock trying to help the disabled Captain Pike get back to Talos 4.
Gotcha.
Stu says, Stark and modern Trek tropes aside, this was a fun opener. Yeah, that snark, man, I still just don't care for it. It had a cool-looking Strange New World and an interesting plot, and new avenues for characters like M'Benga and Chapel with their rampant steroid use and apparent space Vietnam Klingon war backstories now.
Yeah, they didn't mention for a year, but now.
Yeah, Stu sent me, I was like, what the hell is this? And he was like, it's a supplement to my email, but he sent me on Twitter a picture of Mbenga with the Bane mask on it. It said Mbanga.
It's
good. Like, yeah, man, huffing that venom.
See, whenever he's fixing someone's wounds, he should be like, "You have my permission to live."
Hippocratic oath. No harm.
Other doctor things. All right. Well, thank you guys for the feedback. Thanks, Stu.
Other doctor things. Some random measurement stand.
We'll be back soon with more Strange New Worlds, and I'm still very excited for this show. I'm just hoping we get some more like, I don't know, like standalone-y, like just good adventures that are more creative. I guess this one just felt like it felt like a Mad Lib Star Trek episode, like like insert bad guy, insert thing, do the thing. It just didn't feel like it felt like a bunch of different portions of Trek just remixed into an episode. Nothing new or novel, I guess, is what really bothers me about it.
Yeah.
And
by the way, can I just say my issues with me not being able to see Chapel becoming who she is in the original series. Like, I like this Chapel better.
Me too.
I like Strange New Worlds Chapel, and it bums me out thinking that she might become like the TOS Chapel.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll be back soon with you guys. Jolan True.
Live long and prosper. And also, Effie and I did our review of The Cage. It is up now, and the next episode, which will be out in a few days, is Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Yeah, that's exciting. Effie's going to be coming on and covering a bunch of the older Trek with Dave, since I don't have time to do it.
And she's never seen it before, ever.
Yeah, so that's really like, and you've been doing that somewhat with Brittany too, like those perspective of someone watching it all, you know?
Christiana.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Brittany's seen it all.
Brittany's seen it all, probably more than me.
I knew that. I just called her the wrong name. Yeah, so you've been doing that with Christiana, watching some, like, showing someone Star Trek for the first time episodes. Those are really fun. So seeing, getting to hear Effie see all those episodes for the first time will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it so far. And, mostly it's an excuse to, watch Star Trek with a friend who I don't get to talk to as much as I would like. So
yeah, it's awesome, man. I can't wait to hear him. So we'll be back soon, guys. Jolan True.
Live long. Live prosper.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.